Hey guys, this is Zach with Next Tech News, and today we're going to go over the differences between the newly announced iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus. So Apple announced both phones today, so let's go over what's similar about the phones. Both phones are going to come out of the box with iOS 10. Both phones are water resistant up to IP67 rating, which compared to like the Galaxy S7 is a slightly lower rating. IP67 is a meter underwater for 30 minutes, whereas IP68, like the Galaxy lineup, is a meter 0.5 underwater for 30 minutes. So very similar ratings, but the Galaxy S7 is slightly more water resistant. So another new thing is the new home button. The new home button isn't actually a button, it's just using haptic feedback, and it's just force touch sensitive, or 3D touch, or whatever they call it now. But that should be interesting to see how that feels in comparison to the original just clicking button. Both iPhone 7s are going to come with the A10 Fusion chip, which is slightly better than the A9 chip. Supposedly it's 40 times better or something like that, but honestly in real world use you're not going to notice that much of a difference. Both come with a 7 megapixel FaceTime camera, so that is a big jump up from the 5 megapixel camera in the previous iPhone 6S's. And both rear cameras are going to come with OIS. That is a big difference now, because in the past with iPhone 6S and 6 before it, the difference between the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus and 6S and 6S Plus was actually the optical image stabilization. Now both phones will have it, and those aren't the differences between the two phones. Both phones will have a quad LED flash, which is essentially like the True Tone flash of before, but now it has two different LEDs for each different color. Both phones will have no headphone jack, and instead are replacing it with just a speaker grill. What a lot of people were confused about when they announced this was they announced stereo speakers, and people assumed that those bottom two speaker grills are the stereo speakers. However, this is wrong. Just like in the iPhone 4S, I believe it was, there were two speaker grills at the bottom of the 4S, but one wasn't a speaker, one was just the microphone. It's very similar now with the new iPhone 7. The second speaker grill isn't a speaker. I don't know if there's a microphone or whatever in there, but it's not a speaker. If you look at all their promotions and all their videos talking about stereo speakers, the one stereo speaker is the top speaker that goes into your ear most of the time, and the other stereo speaker is the one normal speaker on the bottom. So basically they're doing stereo speakers like the HTC 10 did earlier this year, where one is a bottom firing speaker and one is a front facing speaker. The phone is still going to have 2 gigs of RAM, and we're not sure how big the milliamp-hour battery is. However, it's probably going to be very similar size, since they're claiming that it's 2-hour battery life extra over the 6S. I'm going to guess that the batteries are very, very similar in size, and that 2 hours extra is going to come from the efficiency of the A10 chip. The biggest difference between the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus is again in the camera department. But like I said earlier, it's not optical image stabilization that's differing them. This time, it's different setups and cameras. The iPhone 7 is going to have a 12 megapixel f1.8 aperture lens, which is going to be a really good low light shot, just like it's very similar to the S7's camera. However, the iPhone 7 Plus is going to have two 12 megapixel cameras. One is a wide angle f1.8 lens, and one is a 12 megapixel telephoto f2.8 lens. Basically, the differences between the two images, they're supposed to combine the two and do unique software features like a bokeh effect, which will come out later this year and sometime like in October. And then they're also doing like optical zoom between the two lenses, so you can zoom 2 times with the telephoto lens. And they're also doing other weird depth things with those 2 different cameras. So there should be some unique setups and obviously modes and stuff like that in the 7 Plus. So really the only difference between the 7 and the 7 Plus are going to be the same differences as before, you know, screen size, all that. The 7 is actually the exact same dimensions as the 6S before. and so is the 7 Plus as the 6S Plus before. Exact same dimensions. Phone cases will actually work from the 6S as long as the camera slot on those cases are big enough for the new camera, because the new camera is a little bit bigger than the one on the 6S, and the camera hump is a little bit less than it used to be, which is a good thing. So basically the iPhone 7 and iPhone 7 Plus are another iterative update for the iPhone lineup. They're very similar to the iPhone 6S and 6S Plus, but there's some key differences. My two biggest things are the waterproofing and the 2-camera setup with the 6 or the 7 Plus. It'll be interesting to see if that 2-camera setup ends up being a gimmick like it was with the HTC One M8 and the LG G5, or if Apple does what a lot of times it does and waited the proper amount of time for technology to develop correctly and it actually ends up being useful. I'm not really sure if it's going to be. It seems like it's kind of a gimmick, but who knows? If you guys have the courage, please like this video and leave a comment about what you think of the no headphone jack. Is it a big deal or not? If you guys are new to my channel, please subscribe. This is Zach with Next Tech News. See ya.
Now, some people have asked why we would remove the analog headphone jack from the iPhone. Well, the reason to move on, I'm going to give you 3 of them, but it really comes down to one word: courage. The courage to move on, do something new that betters all of us.